Well, it's 4:30 in the morning. I'm jumping in an Uber, leaving Las Vegas, and to me, this is the middle of the night. And I have two thoughts on my mind. Number one, I hate airports, which is where I'm headed. And number two, I was just trying not to have death by experience through the Uber driver. In fact, I already had something mapped out to talk to a friend all the way to the airport, just so somebody knew where I was in the middle of the night. But the most unexpected thing happened. He became very chatty, telling me how he's driving for this executive limo service and this limo service, just trying to make ends meet and recover from the shutdown of COVID for Las Vegas for 4 months. Now, I don't know about you, but if you've ever been to Las Vegas before, you understand what I'm about to say. It is so bright. There are neon lights everywhere. It's hustle bustle. There's thousands of people crawling around everywhere like ants. There's street performers and vendors and homeless people and casinos and music and dances and shows. And of course, a certain smell of a fragrance of a plant that you can smell everywhere. Well, along the way during our conversation, he said something about prayer, and I did just a little check mark in my mind, and I thought I want to come back around to that and connect with this man on a different level. But in the meantime, I asked him a question. If you could do anything without fear of failure, what would you do? And he sat up in his seat. He looked at me in the rearview mirror as I was sitting in the back seat, and he brushed his right hand over his shirt, and he said, "Oh, that's easy." He said, "I would make beautiful men's shirts." He said, "I have great connections here for sewers and fabrics." And he said, "I would love to make men's clothing." And I said, "Well, since you mentioned something about prayer, would it be okay if I asked you another question?" And he replied, "Sure." And so I asked, "Are you a Christian?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, I'm very familiar with the scripture that says, 'With God, all things are possible.'" And I said, "I just want to encourage you today to follow the dreams in your heart. I'm doing that right now myself." And I said, "You're going to find your happiness, your true happiness, in seeking after those things that are in your heart." And he said, "You know what? You were meant to be in my Uber today. I just want to thank you so much for your encouragement and your inspiration." Well, here we are pulling up to the airport. He pops out of the car, runs around to the back, pulls my luggage out of the trunk. And for just a few short seconds, we were looking at one another in each other's eyes. And for whatever reason, I felt bold and put 2 fingers on his chest and I prayed over his life. You see, this is one of the first rules of communication, and that's connection. I didn't know this man to this point. We came from different backgrounds, different cultures, we were different races, but in this moment, he became my brother and my friend. In the end, people want to be loved, they want to be heard, and they want to be understood. And in this is where we find true connection. And this is where people feel valued.